Alright, what's good, ladies and gentlemen? I just had the most explosive shit of my life, which is going to be very fitting for today's topic. Before we start, I'm going to turn on the fan because that's probably louder than I think it is in the recording. Okay, now that you can actually hear me. Today we're going to be talking about what kinds of foods you should be avoiding if you want to basically not kill yourself or not have the food you eat kill you. Stop eating empty foods, my guy. It's a big troll. The modern diet, it's a big old prank that it's like, oh lol, wouldn't it be funny if we raised the obesity rate to like 95%? And that's just what they did. And that's why I have this picture here of the fucking Hungarian flag and the American flag shaking hands, because it's a staple that both of these countries base their like diets around completely empty dog shit food. Let's go. Here we have the nicest McDonald's in Russia ever since their 3-day mission to liberate Ukraine. That's been going on for like a year and a half now. And we got this to illustrate some of the common patterns of dog shit foods, which are empty foods, which are I don't know what this video is titled after. Wonderful. These foods are most often, though not always, low in unsaturated fats, but they may be high in other fats that aren't as good for you. Saturated fats aren't the devil. You shouldn't avoid them. But there are way more foods that are dog shit for you that still have a good amount of those, but not any unsaturated. Unsaturated is basically it's liquid at room temperature. You find those in a lot of oils, like olive oil, avocado oil, whatever the fuck. Saturated and trans fats. There's no funny joke about the word trans that I can make with the trans fats. So trans fats are basically man-made. You can't find those out in the wild. They're hydrogenated oils. You should avoid those completely. Saturated fats have been around for a bit longer, and they exist in animal products and shit like butter, so stuff that is solid at room temperature. Just to be clear, none of the foods that qualify as dog shit exist in nature. These are all man-made foods, as you're gonna see in a bit. So don't think I'm saying that animal products and like a butter is bad for you. It's absolutely not. It's most definitely high in carbohydrates, right? For it to be an empty food. Fat is good for you. Protein is good for you. Carbs are good for you, but they're not essential. They're the only macronutrient that aren't essential. And so with that line of logic, the dog shit foods will be very high in carbohydrates and very low in anything else. The worst of the worst is just high in sugar and low in protein, and also has minimal micronutrients. All things that you want to be avoiding if you want to live a nice life, which I hope you do. Maybe you do, I don't know. Maybe you're like a Bosnian and you're like, I don't know. You don't have the same like axioms as normal humans. Let's get it. Here are the edge cases where some of these foods may work well, and here are the cons of eating them almost always. So in the edge cases, they're usually cheaper if you live in actually like Albania or somewhere else that has just a GDP that's a negative number, or a GDP that's lower than your body weight in kg. They're usually cheaper, right? So if you absolutely have to, I would rather have you eat these things than starve, obviously. They can be used for bulking sometimes if just nothing else is working for you. This is a big cope that most people do when they go from eating literally fucking nothing to just like gobbling down on like gallons of ice cream because they're like, oh well, I'm not gaining weight. I think body weight is the issue. You gotta gain 10 pounds as quickly as you can. In some people, some edge cases, it's absolutely necessary. Just nothing else works for them. If that is you, don't be afraid to eat, I don't know, slice of cake here and there. Fucking spoon some ice cream, only a spoonful. Spoon size can vary. Just make sure that it doesn't become the base of your diet, okay? And sometimes it can be used to fill out your meal once you already have prioritized all the other things that will actually benefit you and that actually are good for you. In those cases, it's not the end of the world, again, if you fill the rest of your calories that you have allocated, especially if you want to be in a surplus, with some of these foods. Not the high sugar ones, but like the ones that won't provide anything on their own, except for calories. If you have everything else ticked off, you can include some of those. The cons are that you're paying with your calories, which you don't want to just go fucking, you don't want to go bonkers and just have like 6,000 calories a day. So you do have, in most cases, a limited budget of how many calories you can eat per day. And you're not getting any nutrients, any protein, any fat, whatever the fuck. You're not getting any vitamins in return, which is very, very sad. And what is also very, very sad is that it will probably kill you sooner than the more natural foods like proteins and fats and whatever, and like whole grains. And also fruits and vegetables. And basically anything that isn't like invented in the past 200 years, fucking Pop-Tart, whatever. It will probably kill you sooner because it hasn't been tested on the previous generations. Most of these things, some of these things, especially like, I don't know, the ultra high processed fucking American white bread, the really bad quality pasta, whatever. These things haven't been tested on many generations, so we don't know what they're gonna do to us. And if we look at the patterns of people who aren't the healthiest, let's just say, they tend to primarily or only eat these foods, so we can only assume it's gonna kill us sooner. And unless you're trying to speedrun life, which I wouldn't recommend, yeah, you would not want to be making up the majority of your diet with this. Can we click to the next slide maybe? Thank you. Okay. The background picture for this slide is all very good foods, very nice. I think that's balsamic vinegar or like olive oil, whatever the fuck you probably don't want to be guzzling down. Oh, that's definitely olive oil. You probably don't want to be guzzling down bottles of this stuff, but these are all most likely very good for you. Here's what you can do. Step number 1 is to build your meals around the protein and your vegetables. And then step number 2 is whatever space you have left, fill it in with these things that I'm about to mention. Preferably whole grains or homemade carb sources. So if you can like bake your own bread out of your own fucking milled flour that you got from your uncle Pete who owns the farm next door, whatever. That's the best case scenario, obviously. Or you can also buy some whole grains from some, I don't know, Whole Foods, Amazon Fresh, whatever the fuck store that's like known for being very hipster and caring about the quality of their food. That is if you can afford it. If you can't quite afford or have the time for any of those things, try to find the least shit quality rice, pasta, or bread that you can. Because, oh yeah, I guess the cat's out of the bag now. The dog shit foods we're referring to are just processed carbohydrates and sugars. These things aren't inherently bad for you, as long as you account for the other variables. But just try and find the best quality you can. You don't want to be getting like some fucking Wonder Bread, whatever, and just having 5 slices of that shit. And you don't want to be having like Kraft mac and cheese. Holy shit, that is like that is a wombo combo for heart disease and like clogged arteries, which you probably don't want, especially if you want nice pumps in the gym. You do not want your arteries to be clogged. Clogged. Nice English. You don't want them. You don't want those bitches to be clogged. Trust me. Prioritize nutrient density. That's a tongue twister. That just means, does it have like vitamins and protein and whatever the fuck else that you need? And like good fats and good cholesterol? Yes, then have it. Does it have minerals? Yes, have it, whatever. If it doesn't have any of those things, probably leave it until the end to see if you can fit it in somewhere in your diet. And if you can't, that's not a big deal, because you want to prioritize the things that do have those things. Wonderful. And on most days, just skip the fucking Twinkies and Pop-Tarts. And basically what this means, the Twinkies and Pop-Tarts, it doesn't have to be like these 2 foods exactly. Essentially, there's just, you can replace this with any like dessert, whatever, food, sugary shit. In my humble opinion, like, you really do need to be like present and enjoying whatever dessert or sugar you do have. So if you're like going out with friends, whatever, you go up to a nice like ice cream shop or like pastry shop, whatever. You don't want to be the type of guy who's like, well, actually, I have reached my allocated number of calories for the day, so I'm not gonna have any of that. No, you can like, go ahead, bro, go ahead. But to account for that, make sure that on the normal, like just your average everyday things, where you're probably just going to be watching fucking YouTube while you eat it, whatever. On most of those days, just, you're not even going to enjoy that much, my guy, and it's only going to negatively impact you. So just skip the sugar on most days. You don't need it. Thank you very much. This will, I'm sure, help you a lot with your entire life. This will make you a quadrillionaire if you follow these epic tips. Thank you very much. Goodbye.